Bienvenidos, fans of the hottest entertainment on the planet. Jaimé En Fuego here, and this is another review coming at y'all from the Fantasia International Film Festival 2026. Yeah. 30 years, man. That is the big celebration. That is the milestone, the landmark for this particular installment. And I mean, one of the most respected genre festivals in the entire world. Just ask the likes of Guillermo del Toro, Quentin Tarantino. I mean, the list goes on of auteurs who have constantly sung the praises. And I'm doing it another year as virtual press. Still haven't been able to get up to the Great White North for this festival that takes place yearly at Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So yeah, I'm just here in the deadly desert, to make my little return to Oz reference, of Arizona. So if you are in much better temperatures up in Canada than myself right now, soy envidioso. But I just got done watching a film that I was originally thinking may have been a horror show channel review, because I have been kind of splitting my time between my own personal channel here in Enfuegotainment and then over on the horror show channel, where we're getting set to debut a bunch of reviews that I did for over there. But there were a couple films where I knew they were going to be middle of the road, and until I actually watched them, I wasn't going to be 100% as to which channel this would fall on. And I am discussing INSECTASY. Yeah, how about that title, right? So I actually previewed this one based on the synopsis and the trailer when I was doing the festival preview on the horror show channel. But upon watching it, at least in my estimation, this is more of like the psychedelic dramatic thriller kind of bit. And more so than any of those descriptions, this is definite erotica, pretty sultry, pretty kinky, pretty horny, and pretty weird. There's a moment in this film where one character says to another, and I quote, I just wanted to double check I got it right, where they're like, aren't you worried that they're going to eventually get so desensitized that they're going to need some real weird shit just to be able to get off? Well, as you see in the trailers, that's most definitely our lead character. Her name is Sadie. She works in a doctor's office, but she's just a receptionist, so she's not like, a nurse or even like the medical assistant, I think RN. I can't remember all the proper terminology and stuff, but yeah, she's just a receptionist at this doctor's office. She's in Canada, but she's British, although interestingly enough, like her accent kind of comes in and out at times, and I feel like maybe she's been there long enough that, she's become kind of acclimated. Like, shout out to my girl, Susie von Slaughter. She's from Kensington, over in the UK, but she's been here in the States for like a few decades. And so the Britishness comes out in like spurts, most notably with certain types of phrases. And, when she gets excitable or whatever, that's the thing. And so, there's times in the film where you can't really tell that Sadie's British, but then there's others where it's most definitely evident. And so, as we find out at the very beginning of the movie, this is from director Angus Silver, I believe, who, if I'm not mistaken, also wrote the script too. And Angus be horny, y'all, at least as far as what he's putting on screen here, because the movie starts out with some very just sultry voiceover that sounds like phone sex line status sort of stuff. And we get this really trippy, cool, synthy score, and I'm just loving the vibe of it. And then we immediately jump to our lead character doing some self-pleasure, but there's the weird aspect of it is she likes to put bugs on her body while she's doing said self-pleasure. And so she's listening to her stuff, to her sultry sort of, phone sex voiceover sort of stuff, and letting the fingers do the walking and all that. And but with a jarred bug crawling around on her. So that's the kink. That's the weirdness. And there are people at the pet shop where she's like getting her insects that kind of take note of her, and that's in the trailer. So I'm not here to spoil this movie or anything, but I at least have to give some context about this. So Sadie, she has a very interesting group of like art-centric friends. They seem like people maybe 20-somethings, maybe met in college, or maybe just like, they're of that age and they frequent a lot of the same like little drinking holes and whatever in the area. But Sadie also has like a bit of an attraction to this guy named Theo, who he appears, based on wearing the apron and everything, that he probably works as a server at a place that is right next door to the doctor's office where, is where her place of employment is. And they bond over smoking cigs and chatting. They go out on a date, and so there is like a little bit of an underlying romance with her. But she's very much just trying to come to terms with her kinks, I think, in some ways. And she's a bit embarrassed. She's a bit shy, and yet when she's home by herself, she's really going for it, man. So I gotta say, Angus did a hell of a job with just making this. I just got done reviewing a film called Sour Minnows, which was very kind of psychedelicized, very trippy. This film does a great job of just getting that sort of trip-tastic vibe very well across, because Sadie's prone to daydreaming, and so as she kind of goes off into her own world in her head, that at times is like medieval, and then at other times, almost like angelic in the clouds. Just all kinds of weirdness. But that shifts the film grade to what appears to be something like straight out of the 70s. Just very grainy, but very like bright sort of colors. A film that I really enjoy called The Love Witch from a number of years ago. Oh boy, excuse me. That was one where it had a similar, just very convincing, not just throwback, but felt like it was from that time period. And so, this definitely, when you have those sort of like daydream sequences for Sadie, very well put across, and you get the psychedelic bit involved. But I gotta say, the score throughout is so dope. Even when we get the opening credits after that very sexual opening with Sadie, we get this very just almost Baroque debonair sort of score with like harpsichord and all this. It's really rad. The music is awesome throughout, as is the sound design, which gets across the whole like scampering of, just a multitude of little legs. And I don't know, like the whole thing that I gauge, especially without spoiling endings or anything like that, is that Sadie is definitely much like what happens with certain bugs, where they cocoon themselves and, they going through said like metamorphosis, their whole biological change transpiring. That is definitely what Sadie is going throughout this movie. I think that that's not any astute observation on my part. It's pretty easy to, just kind of gauge that she is really coming to terms with a lot and trying to feel comfortable in her own skin, despite the self-consciousness about her kinks and things of that nature. But the performance from our lead lady is, it's very vulnerable at first, but her arc as she starts to gain a little bit more confidence. There's a moment where she's interacting with a character, and maybe she's attracted to this character, maybe she's not, but that character, who is a little more just like straightforward and to the point, says straight up to her, "You're not very good at this, are you?" And, trying to just nervously flirt or whatever. And then later on in the film, Sadie kind of turns the tables on another character and uses that same phrase. So that is just very self-evident for her becoming more comfortable, more assertive, and just kind of, she's already in the midst of her sexual awakening of weirdness, obviously. That goes without saying based on what her kink is. But, this was a very interesting film, more so than anything else. It doesn't portray her in a derogatory fashion, which is very respectable. I would imagine that some women would probably watch this and be like, oh, well, this male director is most definitely like, this is male gaze like a motherfucker. There is also a number of instances where you can tell the writing is a man writing a woman and her character doing things that he wanted to see her do, as kind of living a fantasy for this writer, but this writer / director. But it's very compelling, and this is coming from a man, so there you go, how much validation that really puts forth. But she sells it very, very well, this actress, and I just want to make sure that I get her name accordingly, so I'm just going to scroll down on the goodness, where is her name once again? Tyrion Healy. I've not seen her in anything, but she's rocking this really, cutesy pixie sort of haircut in this and everything. Albeit when she is in her dream sequences, she has like the full flowing hair, because it's supposed to have kind of that, fantasy medievally sort of vibe, but a few instances, as I mentioned. But yeah, her performance is terrific. The guy that she likes, who works next door, that, she kind of has a little romance with, he's definitely a derp, and you can tell by just some of the conversation that the two of them have, especially when he's leading it. And, it's very much, you observe somebody, and then when you actually have your interactions with them, and it kind of bursts the bubble a little bit. And yeah, it's just really great to see Sadie's arc and the fact that she does start to really take charge with, between friends that kind of walk all over her, between an employer that makes her deal with too much shit from some of the people at this doctor's office. I mean, she really does seize the, just sees her respectability and, her dignity, and starts to demand respect as opposed to just, taking whatever she can get sort of thing. So I'm not going to go as far as to say that I love this movie because of some of the aforementioned issues. And also just, this sort of eroticism isn't always my thing, but it was an interesting character study into just what makes people tick as far as, what gets them going. And with sometimes it is some very peculiar things, but to each their own, I suppose. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So yes, I was impressed with this, though. Angus did a great job crafting something wholly unique. And I think that the average person who is fascinated with these sort of almost psychosexual, thriller drama sort of things, with some dark comedy in there as well for good measure, I think you will very much dig Insectasy. Definitely one of the best titles that I've seen for a film this year. So I extend a grande gracias for all those who have been checking out my very extensive, at this particular point of this filming, just multitude of reviews, and so very stoked to be covering the event once again. As I said, big shout out to the likes of Ted and Angie and everybody involved who has worked as just very cool press liaisons, and if it's not coming directly from Fantasia, also just giving us the hookup to some of the third party PR peeps to get this. This was a direct from Fantasia though, so it's a recommend. It's odd, but in a fascinating sort of way. Once again, that'll do it, y'all. I've been Jaimé En Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors: Twitter, X, Insta, Fakebook, TikTok, where I'm relatively new, so I don't have much of a following there compared to all my other socials. But that's where I review the biggies, just short form reels, out of theater sort of stuff. I did Her Private Hell, Nicholas Winding Refn, which is his latest, first film in a decade since The Neon Demon, but that actually was the opening night film here at Fantasia. So any interest in that, y'all definitely know the drill of the like, the share, subscribe if you've come across this video and you like me shifting back to long form reviews, because I've been nothing but shorts for the longest damn time, but Fantasia has reinvigorated me to start taking that approach once more. Yes, if you have seen this movie in all of its, just peculiar glory, leave your thoughts in the comments below. So, I've been Fuego, y'all have been Rat Status, and until the reel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, sin amigos, constant viewers, say thank you. Hopefully we have been well met, and we share more of this cinema palabra sooner rather than later. And until mañana and my next Fantasia review, adios.